Hello and welcome to a new episode of Pipeline TV. This time I'm going to give you an introduction to the Data Vault and its integration into Maya. So just as a little recap, the Data Vault is a distributed storage system which allows you to keep track of all your files, keep history of your files, and of course to distribute the data very efficiently among several locations. So what you see here is the private repository of the library which keeps all the assets in a project called Airborne. And as you see, there's nothing in it. In the public portion though, there's a little more in it. There are a few files already, a few assets, not too many though. If you have a look at this, you see that there is at least one character and many different file versions. Something which is very important is that we are not allowed to write onto this share. So if I try to create a file here, I will basically knock my head in at the barrier that tells me that this is a read-only file system. So the only way to manipulate the public repository is to use the private repository that you see here. As you see, I've just created a file, so I can technically write here. So how would that work? I want to manipulate the character, so I open it on the public portion of the repository. I can open it for reading at all times and have a look. Okay, that's what I want to work on apparently. Let's first, I just work on this right now. It's not totally safe because other people could do the same, but like 5 seconds should be fine. I scaled down the nose, but now I really want to be sure that no one else can work on that file. So I save it for editing. This keeps my changes that I have so far, and that's already it. So now I can safely work on that file. Let's have a look at the private repository again. Previously it was quite empty. Now there's something in it, which is the file that I've just checked out to start working on it. Additionally, what you see here in this menu, I obtained a lock. This happened totally automatically. You didn't have to do anything for it. The reason that I obtained a lock is that we can be sure that no one else can work on it. So I have exclusive editing rights on that file right now, and someone else trying to work on it would see that I actually have a checkout on it or a lock on it. So he can't proceed. Okay, so let's make a little change. Let's pretend we work on that file. So make the nose lilac and a bit broader. That's not too bad. So I want to change this as a step because that's part of the history that I want to keep for my personal use in case I want to go back to this. So I say commit. And what happened? Made nose broader and lilac. Okay, so let's make just another change. The eyes might possibly be a bit different, so let's assign a new material, something like a blend. Yes, let's keep it very simple, and let's make this white. It's a bit creepy, but let's save this as a step anyway. White eye shader, something like that, should help me to figure out what I did here. But how can I see the history of my files here? That's a bit hard to see right now. It's actually impossible to see, so I have to use the log for this, a revision log which shows me all the versions that my file has been going through. Currently I'm looking at my local repository here and I have no more than 2 versions. Nose broad and lilac and a white eyeshadow, that's it. If we have a look at the public repository though, we see that the public repository contains many more revisions of that single file. 11 to be precise, and these repositories are totally separate from each other. I mean, the public repository doesn't know anything about the private repository, but the private repository can interface with the public one to push data to it, and that's what we're going to do. I will just push that file version here for review, and I'm going to keep the lock as I do not wish anyone else to start working on that file, just in case. I just want to allow anyone to see it on the server for reading. So I'm going to push this and say review white creepy eye broad lilar nose. So that's the main aspect of the change that I just did. There's some administration overhead, but the actual file transfer, once it has been going through that, is very, very fast and very efficient. So let's have a look at the log again to see whether that really worked. As you see, there is a commit which keeps my push so that you have an idea when you push something. And the public repository now has my additional review with my white creepy eye. It's kind of hard for anyone who's not so involved with the file as I am to really know what's behind all these comments without an image or so. So one way to get around this is to use the preview mode. In the preview mode, you can simply select a revision that you're interested in and preview it. Of course, I'm currently in a file which is in my private repository, and it has a log, and just in case I forgot about that, it reminds me and gives me some options. Currently I want to keep that log and have a look at all these files here. Yeah, that's interesting. Let's see what this does. Okay, pretty neat. I can also go back to my private repository to have a look at the local versions that I have here. And this is actually the one that I'm coming from, but I don't want to do anything with that really. I just want to go back to the file where I came from. So I exit the preview mode and back I am. And well, now I could continue working or just drop the log basically. I've just pushed it and I say, I'm not really going to work on that anymore. So I could just decide to, well, perhaps one last edit so that I save, and that's a bit misplaced, that so I don't really know, if you have no undo, let's just imagine that, or it's really over and undo doesn't work anymore, you could just go back to your latest commit, which is the same as doing a reset. So this will really throw away all your local modifications that are uncommitted yet and reload your file. So that's the previous commit, which is revision 3. Of course, you could also revert a file. So I'm not really into this white eye shader really. So I'm going to preview mode and pick something that I like more. So here we have still the white eye shader. Here it is gone. So I want to just revert to my first revision. And I just hit this button here, which says revert to R1 and exit. And it will allow me to do just that, get my version 1 back up into the stack. Revert, get rid of creepy eye. Okay. So as you see, it did it quite efficiently. It just resaved the file that I've just seen and created a new revision for this. So we just went back to revision 1 and I can continue working. I also want to overwrite the version that you see on the server and release the log because I don't want to work on that anymore. So revert it to non-creepy version of I have fun. So that's basically it. It will now drop me out of that file just to prevent me from continuing to work on it. And if I want to, for instance, I can preview this last file that is on the server right now to version 13. That's the reverted one that I just pushed. And basically that's how all your files are organized. And the great thing is that the public repository with all the revisions, whenever you change a revision here, it will go to all the locations that are working with you just in time and very efficiently. So it's totally possible to have partner studios somewhere else in the world which see the data set that you see and which will not work on your files while you're working on it because they have to lock the files the same way you have to do. So this is how that works. Thanks for watching and see you next time.